but fuck, man.
Yeah, I rebranded the podcast and I was like, "Cool, we are on top of things." And then that didn't happen. It was like one thing after another, like the miscarriage, and we had a death in the family. Like, I guess it was last summer, cusp of summer, fall, but it was like it's still such a fresh grieving process, at least for Drew, because he's never really like gone through something like that before. So we were just like one thing after another.
Have,
Anyway,
have you been open about the miscarriage?
not really. But I'm open to being open about it now. No one's really, like, asked me much about it, I guess, other than, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," or, like, every woman has gone through it, really, so, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if I'd edit that out or not because that is like a tough conversation
Oh,
from both sides for sure. Because it's a loss of a life, man. It's fucking
yeah.
not easy for probably the mother and the father, or mother and mother, like anybody. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was very hard. I guess, like, I haven't talked about it because I haven't had anyone to talk about it, but it's really, like, the main driver of my mental health right now, so I feel like it plays a huge part in why I've been, like, not able to do anything really, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's gotta be. I can only imagine how that is, man. Especially like
Yeah.
someone on someone's mental health, because going through that, like, and just losing it is got to be just heartbreaking. Like, how do you deal to cope with it?
I think for me, it's more so since I'm not, like, religious, but I'm more spiritual, in my brain, it's like, "Okay, I guess it wasn't my time or my body just wasn't quite ready to handle this," or it was I sort of took it as, like, a reality check of, like, "Was this the right moment for you? Were you, like, able to handle this right now?" kinda thing. But I think even if I hadn't have had a miscarriage, it would have been a great time. It's just it comes down to, like, it just happens. There's really no reason. I went to the doctor, like, 2 to 3 times a week for a month, and they were like, "There's" it was a spontaneous miscarriage is what they called it. They were like, "There's nothing you could have done differently. It just would have happened either way." So, I spent a lot of time being like, "Oh my gosh, like, I was drinking too much caffeine or I was vaping too much because I wasn't drinking anymore. And for a long time, I was like, maybe it happened because I had stopped drinking. It was like a reward of like, now that you're healthy, you're able to do this thing that you've been wanting to do and carry this baby, whatever. And so to have that like kind of taken away, I was like, oh, this is my karma or something. But there's like so
Reverse
many different,
karma.
yeah.
So,
So
are you a person that's like, it is what it is, or like everything happens for a reason?
yeah, I'm more it is what it is because I'm not a person that believes everything happens for a reason. There's a lot of instances where I'm like, oh yeah, this happened for a learning experience or this happened because of this, whatever. But there are some things where I'm like, strictly it sucks, but it is what it is, you know?
Yeah, everything happens for a reason. I'm very weird on, because if I bang my knee off like a table, I'm like, oh yeah, everything happens for a reason. It's like I didn't bang
Yeah.
my fucking knee for a reason.
Yeah. Or like just random like bad events that have happened in the world. People are like, it was in someone's plan or it was like it was meant to happen. I'm like, I really fucking hope not because that would suck.
Yeah, I think I'm not religious either. Like, you know me, I don't really talk about it on my show, but when like talking with a friend that you can have a conversation with, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
I found out I think I'm agnostic, where like I don't believe in God, but like there's something fucking going on that's weird.
Oh,
And
yeah, for sure. There is something out there, I just don't know. I'm more so in tune with, like, the earth and the universe, and, like, I love mythology and, like, the whole, like, Wiccan, pagan sort of thing, but I don't really talk about it that much because it's definitely, like, a new age trend on TikTok, I feel like, so it's easy to, like, take it at face value, but I definitely don't my family's Christian, but I've never really held those type of views, I guess, so I'm like, "There's something out there, I just literally don't know what it is," so
yeah, I grew up Catholic, and I went to this thing called CCD. I forget what it even stands for. Like, that's how bad of a like a person I was paying attention. But I
yeah,
remember like them teaching us, and I said like, "Oh, I think we evolved from like monkeys." And I was like a kid, and like the teacher was like not having that whatsoever.
yeah,
I just remember having those thoughts as a kid. And I kind of still have those thoughts. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I respect everyone else's views and religions. I like, again, like Christianity, Catholic. I think that's kind of similar in a way. Again, like I don't know. I actually don't really
Yeah.
even care.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There was a girl in my science class in high school. We were talking about the history of evolution, and she sat in the back with her Bible, and she was like exempt from the curriculum. And I was like, whoa, that's hardcore. But I feel like as long as no one is hurting anyone, I feel like I went through a period where I was very judgmental. I was very like anti-religion and very outspoken about like how harmful it is when it just came to I wasn't educated enough to like know that that's not everyone's shtick, I guess, is like being a hateful Christian or any religion. And now I'm like, as long as you're not hurting anyone, your beliefs do not coincide with mine, but we can still coexist as long as you don't hate people. So
You know
I
what
feel
else
like it's
drives me
great.
nuts? Like these big named like pastors that have like these like $1 million homes and $1 million like
Don't get me
church.
started.
Yeah, Joel Olstein, like how like there was like
I
the flood down there and like he wouldn't let
yes.
anybody in.
I hate him so much. That's a strong word. I always knew there was something funny about him. And I guess it's just when my grandparents or parents had them on like the late night TV or whatever, I'm
Yeah.
like, something is off with that man. It's all like a cash grab kind of thing. And I'm like, I feel like they're not truly into their religion the way that people think that they are. They're just in it for the money.
Oh, if you gave them the option of being like, you can stay religious and meet God, or you can just keep all your money. I'm pretty sure they would just keep all the money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's just
Baffles
me though.
me.
That's just me. But
Yeah.
yeah, enough like I love how we just jumped into like two crazy topics right
Yeah.
off the jump. So
Sorry.
anyone listening, this is pretty much the struggle sesh between me and Haley, formerly podcast 27. So you haven't podcasted in a while, like you rebranded. So what is the name of the podcast and where the fuck have you been?
So the name is You'll Be Fine. And I rebranded, I guess at the beginning of the new year, I was like, yeah, we're going to put out an episode every week, maybe two a week. We are on top of it. And then life just literally happened. And I have like 3 episodes out, and I think I kept a few of the old ones. But I literally have episodes typed up in my notes app, like ready to go. I just cannot like sit down and get ready. And we got Wednesday, our new dog. So like they're finally at a place where they're not going crazy like all the time. And I didn't even know if they bark, if you can hear them in the background. They're just always 24/7 going. So I had to take like a month and a half of like how do I get them to settle down so that I can sit down and record, not have to edit them out, whatever. And then it was like miscarriage, school. I opted out of this semester because class started like 2 days after I miscarried. And I was like, well, I have all this free time, but I was literally too sad to like record anything. So now that I've got all these episodes like typed up, I'm sure I will record them at some point, but
No,
you
for
can
sure.
I'm still on Twitter. I noticed I don't get the same traction on Twitter anymore, and I think it's because I don't tweet on there as often, and there was a little bit of drama on there. I don't like being involved in anything. So I rebranded like my social media handles all to You'll Be Fine Pod or just You'll Be Fine. So I'm still on there. It's if you followed me on podcast 27, you're still following me pretty much. So
Well, a couple of things. Yeah, Twitter drama is like watching like a car wreck. You're like, this is getting bad, but it's very entertaining.
when
Um,
it's bad, it's, like, bad, and I think once I joined the podcast community, I had, like, followed everyone. It took me about 6 months to really get to know who was who and like, everyone, what they're about kinda thing, and so I started, like, unfollowing people that I didn't really click with or that were too dramatic all the time, and it was fine for a while, and then all of a sudden, just, like, more stuff kept happening, and I was like, "No, no, no. Keep me out of this."
I'll unfollow somebody if it's like they post something that's great. Like someone posted like a porn image, and like again, I'm not against porn. I watch it, but it was just like
Yeah,
I don't need that on my timeline for what I'm doing. So I was just like,
yeah.
yeah, just or like people that like show a picture of like a meme. There was one of this. It's like, what would you say about this photo? And it was like a girl that was overweight, and I was like, that's fucking kind of fucked up.
It is so and it was one account and then it started like snowballing and it's like, what is the first thing you think of when you see this photo? And it's like a hot woman with guns. And I'm like, okay, literally just go on Google. I don't know the reaction. I think it's for attraction. I think it's for like follows and like interaction and stuff. But I'm like, it'll be the most vile thing. And you know what they're trying to like get out of the people that follow them, I guess. I'm like, God, it gets to be like a little homophobic and like things that I don't really click with. And I'm like, oh, y'all are actually like not good people.
Yeah, dude. I think we're talking about the same account without naming them, but we'll talk about that off air. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the same way. They just do it for like clickbait. They just have people on. They have a
Yeah.
bunch of followers. They follow people back. It's just like there's so much better accounts. And I think what else too, you probably don't get traction on Twitter as much because like we're not verified blue. And I feel like a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
those people are more like into like the timeline and stuff. So yeah, I've seen a lot of like pushback, not pushback, but like a lot of like declining in my tweets and stuff.
Yeah. And like I mostly tweet from my personal account, but when I was really active on like with Tony and Pixie and all you guys and whatever, it was like very active. I don't know. I felt like I made like a lot of friends. We were like chatting all the time. And now it's just kind of like leveled out. And I'm not paying for Twitter Blue. So that will not be happening.
Yeah, dude, remember like the original like couple of us? It was like, yeah, me, you, Tony, Pixie, Glyza,
Yeah.
Job. I had to text Job not too long ago and be like, "Are you alive, dude?"
Yeah. I think, is he just streaming, like doing the streaming stuff?
He's a busy dude. Yeah, I know he's doing the streaming, but I miss his podcast. I actually stole his intro. I don't think he knows this, but he used to go, "Hey yo," so I've been doing that now because of him.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I loved that podcast. And there was like a period of time where I was like, oh yeah, we're all gonna like do a show together because I went on their podcast too. And I was like, this is so much fun. And then I guess that came to an end. So, but I love keeping up with him as a person in general. I just kind of stay back in the shadows. I've been more of a lurker these days than anything. So
Yeah, and then, Anthony and Steven from the We Have Issues podcast, he was another one that I linked up with early, and he's a good friend of mine too. There's people that, like, I chat with, like, that I consider friends, and, like, he's definitely one of them, like, me and Chicago Tony V haven't talked in a while, and that's kinda probably on me too, but, like, he's such a good dude, like, that guy's the man.
yeah, and, like, the month of February was great for me mentally. I think I was blocking out a lot of shit, so I was getting up early, and, I was like, "Oh, I have time to listen to Chicago Tony V on, like, the live Twitch or whatever streaming platform he does," and now I'm like, "Oh, it's been so long, I've missed so much." So because he records, like, every single day almost,
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Oh, that's so much to keep up with," but
yeah,
good for
yeah.
him. I miss all those people.
I do too. And like Pixie's another one. I've been talking to her like off and on and I like not to spill her like tea or whatever, but I know she's like kind of like not struggling, but I think she's taking a step back from podcasting because I don't know if she's getting burnout or what because she was always helping people and like she was like a real
Yeah.
asset to I think the podcasting community. And I know like some people were like fighting with her at one point and it was like I looked into those people and like yeah, there's a reason why I don't follow these people.
Yeah, and it's like when someone is very wholesome, they're taking time out of their day because she works, like, she does so many other things. She's got, like, her life at home, and then she does the podcasting stuff. And when I saw a bunch of people trying to subtweet and be like, if you're self-proclaimed, like, pod
Yeah,
mom or pod parent or whatever, and I'm like, okay, then step the fuck up and you fucking do it. She's doing it out of the goodness of her heart because she enjoys helping people. And I think when you're like successful and a really genuine person and other people see that, they're just like intimidated. So it's really sad. Like people are haters for no reason.
for sure.
But
But the podcast father's my guy, Jeff. I love him a lot.
oh yeah.
He does a lot for the podcasting community too. And I don't know how he deals with everybody because everyone's up his ass about just like getting reviews, like making sure they're connected with him. But like that guy's a saint.
Yeah. I love that people have the energy to do that kind of stuff. Not me, but I appreciate the effort that goes into it because I could not do it.
It's funny with people with mental health podcasts like me and you because like we'll have time where like we just like fuck this. I'm shutting down the studio. Like I'm like
Yeah.
not mentally prepared to like even have a conversation with a human being, let alone like a camera and a phone. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
And,
it's
like, when
interesting.
you 'cause I was like, "Oh, this will be a great way for me to talk about my mental health." Like, I do that anyway at work or with my friends. And then I really enjoyed doing it. It was just, like, the times where I couldn't get out of bed or my job is strictly doing nothing but talking to people every single like, for hours on end, and then I'll go home, I'll get in my car, and I'm like, "Bro, I still have to go home and, like, I love my dogs and I love my husband, I love, like, my friends, but there are days I wanna go home and, like, sit in the dark. I won't even turn the radio on when I leave work. I'm like, "This is too much. This is too much for me."
I listen to the same like 9 songs every day, and 8 of them are like Kesha songs.
Oh my gosh. Did you see she's coming out with a new album? I
Of
thought of you
course,
immediately.
of course.
Yeah, super exciting.
She had
Uh,
that countdown, and it was like 15 hours before I went to bed. Then I woke up, and like I was in like the midst of my job, and I was like, "Oh wait, I gotta see what that countdown was." And there was like an hour left, and I like kept it up, and I was like, "It's got to be a new album," and it was definitely a
oh,
new
yeah.
album. So
Yeah, and JoJo is on Broadway, I think, right now too. I was
there's a possibility I go see her at on her Broadway show.
Oh, yeah.
New York's not that far.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always forget because 'cause I'm like, I wanna go back up to see Salem, like, more of Salem, and I'm like, "Oh, I have, like" I think I have a friend in Pennsylvania or and New York. There's, like, so many spots up when you're down here, you have to drive, like, 4 or 5 hours to get to the coast and the beach or whatever, and you're still in Georgia, but up there, like, the states are a lot smaller, so that's
Yeah,
pretty
people
cool.
forget that we met up. We finally got to meet in person. It felt like you were my sister, and
I know.
it was so easy. And I was just like, this is like not like, you know what it is. You meet somebody for the first time, especially when you meet online. You're like, this kind can be awkward. I was just like, the first thing I said, I was like, why aren't you fucking making podcasts?
Yeah, I knew it was coming. I literally told Drew, I was like, "Just wait for it. I know what's coming. I know what he's gonna say." And sure enough, but it was really fun, and it feels like it wasn't that long ago, but it's probably been like was it last year? Maybe it
Yeah,
was last year.
yeah. It was like last like summer, obviously, right? It was like nice out. Was it September?
It was like March of last year because I went up to see the and that's why we drink podcast show, and it was nice outside, but it was windy and cold. And I think it was March only because I remember I have the poster date somewhere in here because I got the show poster, but I don't know why it seemed like it was like 6 months ago, but time is an illusion, so but it was
Right.
really fun. I've had a lot of internet friends that I've known for like 8 years, and I still haven't met them in person, and I feel like when you know whether you know someone for a long time or not, online, it's like the kind of friendship that you have if you were to meet in person, you just know it's not gonna be like weird or awkward or anything like that. So it was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it is funny. I feel like in my head that I already met Jav, and like I feel like there's gonna be a time I do that because I have friends in Arizona. So like if I
Yeah.
can go out there and just link up with him and be like, yo, let's like I just want to be like do like one episode and just have me on.
Yeah, that would be so rad. I also feel that way about Tony, and I think it's only because, like, he's the kind of dude that, like, I see at work on a regular basis, but not in the creepy way. Like, there's guys that come into work and all they talk about is, like, random stories from their life, and they're just, like, there to entertain other people. That's how I feel like if I met Tony, I feel like he's been my uncle for, like, many years or something.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
Matthew Tyler from Hopskeek News came up to Massachusetts, but I couldn't link up with him, and it was just like it was
No.
unfortunate. I was so close, but between work and the drive, at one point it was like they're at a brewery, and I was like, "All right, it's gonna take me an hour to drive there, and then like drink, and then drive an hour back." I was like, "It just doesn't seem
Yeah.
plausible right now."
Yes, he seems like such a fun person to hang out with too. I love, like, all of his tweets and stuff. I feel like we would have a similar, like, personality type that would get along in real life, if that makes sense. But I always forget he has a kid too.
Yeah, he's one of the so I always like think about this and like when I meet people or talk to people is their height. I think he's like a tall human being, but I could be making that up in my head. I don't know why.
Yeah. He gives off tall vibes for
He's a yeah,
sure.
tall. There's tall vibe people out there. Like I've never gotten like
Yeah,
tall vibes for myself from anyone else. I'm like, they're like, oh, like you
yeah,
record in that closet. I'm like, yeah, if I stand up, this thing is so short, I'll like bang my head.
yeah, yeah, I'm like an average height, like 5'5". I feel like that's the average female height, so everyone's either my height or taller than me anyway, but
Sometimes girls are funny though with like their height, like, oh, I'm so tall. And I'm like, how tall are you? They're like 5'9". I'm like, you're not that tall.
yeah, if you were like if you hit like the 6'3" mark, then I'm like, "Oh, okay, you're pretty up there." But
Yeah. Like, you should be playing volleyball and basketball if you're that tall.
yeah, yeah. So irrelevant. Well, I guess it is a relevant topic, but we were talking about like the struggle sesh.
Mhm.
So I was talking, I guess earlier yesterday about like the manic episodes. How would you describe a manic episode to someone when you experience them, or any point in your depression or bipolar disorder? Because I have a way that I would describe it, but I want to hear how you would describe it to someone.
Man, manic episodes are like so dangerous that it's funny because like from the outside looking in, people just think you're in a great mood and you're just like there's two like, I feel like there's two manic episodes in opinion. There's like a positive one and there's like a negative one that's like mixed in. So like the positive one, I'll be like, I think the word's grandiose or grandiose, like what's that word? Like fucking just like everything just seems
Randy,
great.
yeah, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so I'll be like, "Oh, I don't need my meds. I'm doing great. Today's such a beautiful day out." And then, like, in my head, I'll be like, "I got a dog. Like, he loves being outside. I should build a dog house." I have no fucking idea how to use a screwdriver. Like, there's no way I'm building a
Yeah,
dog house. But then
yeah.
there's the negative one where I like spiral and just like I pile everything on. It's like the complete opposite where I just like and like it could be more depression, but I feel like I'm just so manic that like I'm just like losing my mind and I'm like going to that switch. It's like a not thermometer. What the
Like
fuck
a
am I
meter, like a
meter? Yeah. So it's
yeah.
like it just goes like a little bit closer to that. And that's when like I spiral and like there's been times I spiraled on Twitter and like I just kind of like self-deprecate and people like I got warnings from Twitter being like someone's worried about you and I was like shit. I was like that's bad. But
Yeah.
like mania is like false reality. That's like the best way to like explain it that you're in like a false reality and it's like very scary and it could be
Yeah.
detrimental to you. Like you like people with bipolar like have like risky behaviors and like one of them is gambling and that one of them is for like that's one of mine but I'm not a I don't think I'm a degenerate gambler. Like I only take money out I can lose. So
Yeah.
like when I had my nervous breakdown, like probably like last year, I was out of work for 2 weeks because like I just couldn't handle anything. And like the first thing I did when I had my breakdown was drive down to the casino and just go down there because I get away from everybody. Like I sit with like all these different people at like the blackjack table and I love chatting with them because like no one knows each other. And like I love the old Asian women. Like they're my favorite people to play with. They like just
Um,
no fuck. They like all business. They like they say monkey. So like in blackjack when like you want them to go over 21, they're like monkey and they slam the table and I fucking love that. They want the
I
deal to bust. I don't know what it is, but I just absolutely love that. But yeah, it's a false reality. But how would you explain it?
yeah, so pretty much the same. It's like there's the two episodes, I feel like, 2 sides of the spectrum where I'll this was a few months ago, I was driving and I feel it, like, come from my stomach up into my chest, and it was that, like, impending doom of, like, everything it was a beautiful day, I was on my way to work, and then I could feel it. It was, like, 2 parts of me, like, pulling, and I was like, "Oh, no," like, I could feel it. The depression episode is coming, and a part of me was like, "No, no, no, just keep holding on. We can stop this, whatever." But recently, in the past few days, I felt such a heightened sense of like everything is going great. Like I don't need to go get evaluated and my therapy session is going to be great and I don't need to be on meds and blah blah blah. And then sure enough, that's how I knew like the fall is coming, like the bad is coming. And I feel like when I get in those episodes, I'm so tired. Like you could think of your hardest day at work, your body is completely run over by a bus, your brain is just like fried. That's what it feels like, but I haven't overworked myself. I'm sleeping and it's just like it makes me feel bad because I'm not doing anything. I'm not overexerting myself. It's literally my brain being like, it's shutdown time. And it sucks. I don't know how to explain it in like better words, but like when someone like let's take Drew for example, because Drew doesn't really deal with this sort of thing. Like I can get out of bed or I will have insomnia. And when I finally go to sleep, I do not want to get out of bed. Like my body is physically like, you cannot do anything today. I'll drag myself to work. I was at work yesterday and it was just a mix of the lights and people talking. I was sitting there probably for like 2 hours. We didn't have anyone come in for like 3 fucking hours. And I was like, I'm so overwhelmed right now and nothing is happening. It's just this like sense of like, I'm going to die when I leave here. Or I don't know. It's really unfortunate and it, like, impacts every part of my life to the point where I have a new therapist, so I go see her again tomorrow, and I'm like, "This is perfect timing because she gets to see" like, we got down to the nitty-gritty in our first session, and she was like, "We have so much to unpack here. This is gonna be great. You're gonna learned so much. And tomorrow I'm like, yeah, you're definitely sitting in the middle of a spiraling episode right now. So grateful to be here.
That's why it's no fault to its own, but therapy's funny because they you have like a 45-hour block. And I wish like they could be with me for like a week just to see like how I really am. Because in therapy,
Yes.
I'm like in a good mood. I'm like, oh yeah, things have been going great. Like same with my prescriber for my meds. I'm like, what's new? I'm like, nothing. But then like there's so much that's new that like I like another thing too, like go off topic a little bit is like Adderall and like Lamictal and like Adderall for people with bipolar like isn't the best. And like I've read
Yeah.
that somewhere, but like I'm on that, like I'm on a mood stabilizer and Adderall. And I guess it's like it like brings out mania episodes more. So like when I take my like Adderall, like which I took before this, because like it puts me in that like hyper mood where like I'm hyper focused and I'm like in a good mood. So I don't know if it's just the meds or if it's like helping me like I'm doing it on my own. And I don't know if it's actually the Lamictal or it's actually the Adderall. And
Yeah.
and I think it is because like I'm just rambling right now, which is like that like how I am. So I'll be at work and just like talking everyone's ear off, and then like I have to bring myself back to reality. And I know I'm not manic, but I know like it's like manic light, where it's like
Yeah.
I'm having tendencies of mania right now.
Yes. You're like all you have so much to say. So I do that at work where I'm like, I'm in a good mood, everything's going great, but there's something inside me that's like, suddenly we have so much to talk about, and it's me to like one person, and they're like, yeah, but they're used to it, like they're my friend, they're used to it, and I'm like, all right, end scene. Now I'm done for the rest of the day. Like I got even with Drew, like it'll be 3 a.m. and he can tell because I'll get this look on my face, and I'm like, it's time to party, and he's like, it's time for bed, and I'm like, no, but I have to tell you about like this movie that I saw and like how I was feeling today and the story from work and blah blah blah, and I'm like, I haven't gotten evaluated since COVID for all the mental illness kind of stuff. But I was talking to my therapist and we did the little rundown talking about like PTSD versus CPTSD and like OCD and ADHD. And I took this like mini evaluation. It said severe symptoms of OCD. And I was like, well, that's the new check mark on the list. So I don't know. I feel so bad when I'm like around other people. Going back to what you said about wishing a therapist could stay with you for a week. Cause I'm like, if someone could sit with me for a week and see my behaviors, see what I'm doing, I feel like it would give them better insight into why I am the way that I am, I guess.
Have you ever thought about bringing Drew into some of your therapy sessions to like have him explain? Because like I did that with Lindsay, and she said something good. She was like, "I don't know how his brain works," and it was like good to hear that because like her brain is different than mine. So did you ever think about doing something like that so he can like talk about his point of view and maybe like enlighten it? So like he's with you every day, so he's kind
Yeah.
of like your personal therapist pretty much. So like, do you ever
That's
think
such
about
a good
doing that?
idea. No, I've never thought about that until this moment. Cause like we've talked about couples therapy, like we don't have any reason to go that like taboo, I guess. But it's therapy is good in any case, whether things are going good or going bad. Because we had some friends and they like went to couples therapy to like work on stuff. And Drew was like, I know that if I told you, hey, I want to go to couples therapy, my first thought would not be something is wrong. So I think for him to like give that perspective of me as a person, that would probably be really helpful for her. Cause the first session alone, she like went through, we had like an hour and a half session and she was like, you have CPTSD, which in a lot of cases is worse than PTSD. PTSD is from one situation, typically that causes like lifelong traumatic, has triggers, whatever. And she was like, your whole life has been nothing but trauma. And so now you're in this boat of like constant triggers. You're remembering things from the past that you didn't remember 5 years ago. And I was like, oh, wow, that probably explains or has a lot to do with why I think about things a certain way or why I do things a certain way. So it would be nice for him to come sit in and kind of learn because he's really helpful. He's like my rock, my best friend. And he's never had like a negative I don't know, like, his support has always been a very positive and very, like, understanding. It's never been like, "Oh, why do you do this?" or "Why are you the way that you are?" But I've never thought about, like, putting him in the situation and for him to explain, like, "This is my wife's brain, and this is my brain, like, what is the
Yeah,
difference?" Because
yeah,
he has
Drew.
ADHD too.
Yeah, Drew's good people. He
Yeah.
gave off tall people vibes just as the
Oh,
photos
yeah.
you guys have. He's yeah, he was really good. You can tell that your guys' dynamic was really good, and he's a big nerd too. Like when he was
Yeah.
going looking for the Pokemon cards, I'm like, oh man, like I didn't expect this at all.
Yes, he is. He's a very smart guy. And like I feel like his we are two different kind of nerds, which is nice because it's just good to have that dynamic, I guess. But he's just a overall like really fun guy to hang out with. Like I feel like if we never had been in a relationship, we still would have been like solid friends pretty much. But like people talk about their best friends and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, I feel pretty lucky. Like I'll hear people talk about their relationship problems, especially at work or whatever, or like whatever our friends are going through. And I'm like, I just really, we cannot relate to that. And I'm sure we've only been together for like 9 years. So our time, I'm sure we'll have times where we like fight or disagree or something else will come up. But we've already been through so much with like trauma and grief and family stuff and like our house getting struck by lightning, like just so many random things that we've gone through that we've been able to like make it and just work as a team. Some people just can't do that. And I'm very thankful that we get along so well.
You guys have been put through the fucking ringer now that I think about it, and his COVID like issues too that he
Oh
had.
my
Like,
God. It was one when I like think about the past 2 or 3 years, like when Drew had COVID, he had it bad. Like he was in the hospital for a long time. And then we got past that. He still has some like long winded, he had a lot of lung issues. And then it was like, all right, everything's cool. Our house gets struck by lightning. The same day our house got struck by lightning, our roommate was going through this situation with a girl. Like it was, I'll have to talk about that off camera, but it
yeah,
was so crazy. And we woke up and it was like, our house is on fire. And then fast forward, his grandmother passes away. And that was so, so hard, like so devastating. And then the holidays come around. It's hard to get through holidays without a crucial family member, you know, and then announce our pregnancy 4 days later, miscarry. And then I feel like something there's been more stuff that's happened. I'm just like the top events were like, damn, when do we get a fucking break? But it's coming, I'm sure.
you guys are long overdue. You guys need to like buy some scratch tickets or fucking like something. Just
That's the thing is that Drew has the best luck when it comes to gambling, I feel like. Like we went to Vegas for the When We Were Young Fest and I don't even touch those machines because I'm gonna lose money. It took me 2 hours to make like 50 bucks. Drew won like 900 fucking dollars. He lost it within like 10 minutes, but he was like, I came here with like a couple $100, got 900. He'll just like sit there and play scratch offs. Every time we get a scratch off, he gets like $50, $100. I'm like, cool. I don't have that kind of luck, so I'm not even gonna test my fate.
you, I love when people call them scratch offs. Up here, they call them scratchies, guy. Like
Scratchies?
scratchies, yeah.
That's crazy. I forget that, there's different lingo, I guess. I was very intimidated when I came up there because I guess I didn't real like, I've heard your accent, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, I know that this accent is real in the movies, and, like, people do have these accents," but when I got up there, I was like, "Oh my god, I feel like I may say like, "Yes, ma'am," or something, and they will be mad at me. But we went to a pizza shop and the guy was very like strong mafia looking maybe, and he was so nice. I think it's just like the Southern hospitality. And I always tell people the Southern hospitality thing is true to an extent, but it's very like two-faced. So I don't feel like it's that real down here. Everyone's just used to being nice for no reason.
Yeah, Boston
So
can be pretty tough. We have a lot of assholes that live up here, but when I go down to the south, like when I lived in Charlotte, it's like I get a lot of brain farts when I start talking. They're like, I'm like, yeah, can I get some like extra butter? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. They're very nice about it, but like the Boston accent outside of Boston is so prevalent and it's so like it's like larger than life in a way. Like I'm not trying to like gas myself up with like, oh, I have a great accent. I think the
yeah,
accent's fucking stupid. That you never hear of a porn star with a Boston accent. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're
yeah.
just not like fucking fuck me guy harder. Like you're never gonna hear that. You're never
Yeah.
gonna hear that.
Yeah, no, it's funny too because this podcast that I started listening to, The Basement Yard, they have like they're up north too. And more people recently, I don't know if it's like conventions or whatever, but at work, more people from up north have come with accents. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just the life of the party. That's like how I can describe it for someone is like someone with that accent has the life of the party within their soul, it seems. So
Yeah, people love like when I was on like my honeymoon or on vacation, people love like finding the Boston people. They're like, "Oh, it's the Boston Tim, like Boston this," and it's
Yeah.
it is wicked funny and like it's like a double edged sword. Like sometimes I just sound like a fucking idiot, but then sometimes I'm like, yeah, it's me, like it's me.
I feel like too with the South, like you can meet the most Southern people and have no fucking idea what they're saying. But people that have grown up with family members, like with a very thick Southern accent, they could be saying like the most random shit, and you're like, yeah, I totally understand what they're saying. But someone else is like, I did not understand a word that that person just said. But different dialects across the US is very fun to listen
Yeah,
to.
because you got like the Texas, you got California. I think the one that I want to go see and hear is go down to Louisiana and hear like the Creole, like where they're like dangle,
Yes.
they dangle. I'm like, what the fuck are they saying?
Yes, my I don't okay, that sounds bad because I don't know. I think my stepdad is actually from Louisiana, but I know he lived there for a long time. I'm pretty sure that's where he's from. But I feel like I can hear an accent out of him in some capacity, but I would love to go down there and like actually like go to New Orleans or I've never been there, but Drew has. I want to go for Mardi Gras. Just like I don't drink anymore. So I'm like, I think about like vacation plans that I've had or wanted to go do, and I'm like, "Oh, it's probably not as fun since I'm not gonna, like, party like they party," but yeah.
No, there's probably something down there for everybody. Like it is funny too. Like drinking is such like a social aspect that like it's included in like anything. It's like you go to like a baby shower, it's like mimosas. You go to like a friend's birthday party, it's like beers, and it's like, and then like the worst thing I hate because I have a buddy who's straight edge. He doesn't drink or smoke, and it's like, why aren't you drinking? And it's like it could be reversed. It's like, why are you drinking? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the reason that you're drinking? Alcohol is legit poison, and like there's commercials for it. There's like drink it and it's like you're gonna feel terrible the next day. And like I still drink. Like I don't drink like a crazy amount. Like I'll go out and socially drink just to have fun, but like I don't know why I feel awkward when I go places and I'm not drinking. It's like I don't like that feeling.
Yeah, it took me like, a little bit to get in the groove of things, I guess, but I'm at a place, and I feel like I'll always be at this place where I'm like, we obviously, like, all know drinking is bad. They make, like, liquid IV for your hangovers, like, so you can prepare not to feel like shit the next day. No one seems to do that with, like, weed, but I don't know, I could be wrong, but it I think I thought I wouldn't be as fun when I wasn't drinking, and then it took I was like, "Oh, people probably I've been drinking for so long, people probably don't even know what the sober me is like," and not that drunk me is, like, this crazy person because it's really not, but even when I would get, like, a little bit tipsy or whatever, I just, like, felt more comfortable in a situation, and I spent, like, almost every single day drinking, not completely, like, getting blackout, but the past, like, I guess maybe a year or 2, and with work and COVID, it just, like, got super bad, so I was like, "How am I gonna separate these, like, social interactions and these parties and whatever?" And now I'm like, "Just give me a Red Bull or just give me, like, a soda water with some cranberry juice and a lime or something." At work, I'll get a salt rim with soda water, and they're like, "That's fucking disgusting." But I like the texture of the salt, so it tastes good.
I was actually gonna say that. That's a good move. If you want to blend in, like ask for a drinking cup and get like soda water and cranberry, or get like just Coke, and it looks like you're drinking like rum and Coke. So like
Yeah.
you can fit right in, but then they're like, "Why are you still sober?" It's like I don't know. I have a high tolerance. I don't know.
As I was at work, and this guy was like, "You've had, like, 3 of those now, like, what how are you, like, still so calm?" And I'm like, "I don't know, dude. I think my tolerance is just, like, really high."
Yeah,
Because sometimes at work, some men will not buy you a drink if you are not drinking alcohol, and it's kind of like a gray line of, like, they're trying to get you fucked up so they can take you to a room and potentially, like, do whatever they want, and you have to be very smart about it. So I'm like, I know you're trying to play me right now, and I can either, like, test the waters and be like, "Oh, I'm fun sober, like, I just don't drink or I have to drive home or whatever," and then some people will just fake it, like, they'll give you a fake shot, like, I don't know what that like, the club shot or whatever, you just, like, order, like, name of club shot, and they know, but some men have been going long enough, they know what that language is, so I'm like, "Give me a sex on the beach with just juice. Thank you."
just I want sex on the beach, but just the beach.
Yeah, just the beach, nothing crazy. But now that Liquid Death I love, like, sparkling water and, like, water in general, I guess, but Liquid Death is great because most venues have it now, and it's, like, this badass can that looks like it could be,
Mhm.
like, a sparkling malt liquor drink and it's just water and it makes me feel cool. And I feel like a lot of people in our age group at least have like started cutting back on alcohol or are going sober. So it's really, I don't know. I don't really have that question from people our age. It's always people that are older that are like, you're so young. You're too young to have a problem. Like, just have a little fun. I'm like, I had my fun. I had too much fun and now I'm sad. So let me be.
You think about, like, when people buy other people a drink at the bar, like, you kind of alluded to it. It's like, well, what is the end game there? It's like it's kind of like an empty gesture in a way. It's like, "Oh, I'm buying you a drink," but, like, I'm buying you a drink so you're getting drunk enough that you'll talk to me, or, like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna try to bring you home. So it is kind of funny. It's like, if you can't, like, you should just be able to go up to a girl or a guy or whatever and just be like, "Oh, how are you?" Like, like, why is there a drink has to be a drink involved to do that, to break
Mhm.
the ice? It's
I
just funny.
literally it's so I had I'll never forget because 'cause I've been at this club now for, like, 6 months. My other one closed, and I was like, "Okay, let's go, find a new one." And it was, like, my 2nd week there, and the people know when you're new because they haven't seen you around. These people go there every single day. This guy was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna buy you a drink if you're not drinking alcohol." And I was like, "Well, why not? I'm fun. I'm fresh. I'm doing my thing." And he was like, "That's no fun for me. Like, what am I gonna get out of it?" And I was like, "What is your end goal? Like, what you buying me a Red Bull versus alcohol, like, what is the difference?" And he's like, "Well, how am I gonna be able to, like, have fun with you if you're not, like, a little bit more willing when you're drunk?" And I was like, "You're a predator." And I
Yeah.
turned around. I've been in this industry for so long now that I'm like, I literally do not care about your feelings because you obviously don't care about mine. So, and I'm not going to get fired for being honest to these people. And I was like, "You're a predator. That's like the creepiest thing I've heard." And he was like, "It's just the truth." And I was like, "Are you a single man?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I thought so." And I walked away and I was like, "I'm not here." I was not in the mood that day, but all I wanted was a Red Bull. I just really wanted to get my wings on. But it gives you a perspective about people when you're like, they only wanna buy you a drink because they think they're getting something out of it, and it's really weird.
I can't
So,
even, like, do Red Bulls anymore. Like, I'll do them, but, like, I'll switch up. I'll do, like, a Bang or a C4, and then, like, those,
mhm.
like, get me, like, jacked up. I shouldn't even be drinking those because 'cause I'm jacked up as it is, like,
Oh
just
my
on my
gosh.
Adderall and my personality, so I just
Yeah.
need it to, like, keep going.
I thought that for the longest time, like, caffeine did not affect me. Mountain Dew was the only thing that would keep me up 12, 14 hours. My In high school, my mom wouldn't let me have it past, like, 2 p.m. She's like, "You're gonna be up to, like, 4 a.m." And so I was, like, conditioned to not drink it as an adult, and then I love Red Bull. I started drinking sugar-free Red Bull when I was younger because of Nick Jonas and his diabetes. I wanted to be an ally. And then now that we have, like, Red Bull, I would drink, like, 5 of them, 6 of them in a shift when I was drinking with vodka. And then when I quit drinking, I was like, "All right, no vodka, just 5 Red Bulls a day." I had so much chest pain. It wasn't even the caffeine. It wasn't like I was still able to, like, go to sleep and whatever, but my heart was hurting so bad, and I was like, "I'm gonna end up." I think one of my friends ended up in the hospital, and then she tweeted like, "Yeah, you guys need to quit drinking Red Bull," and I was like, "Oh my god, that's gonna be me one day."
Yeah.
So now we're at 2 Red Bulls a shift at work. We're
I
weaning
swear
off.
they I swear they changed their ingredients because when they first came out, I remember, like, getting one for the first time. I was like, "This tastes like shit." And then, like, after a while, I had one and, like, I had a Red Bull vodka, and I was like, "Oh, these aren't bad." But now that I drink a sugar-free Red Bull, like, in the back of my mind and back of my mouth, I can taste, like, the Red Bull vodka, and I'm like, "Ugh."
Yeah, and, like, sugar-free drinks in general have always tasted so bad to me. I don't know what the ingredient is in it that gives it. I don't like stevia, I don't like any alternative sugar kind of thing, but I started drinking Coke Zero, and it tastes better than regular Coke to me, and I was always anti anything but, like, "Give me the Coke." So that, like, doesn't leave an aftertaste, but it's like Diet Coke, sugar-free Red Bull, all of them have this, like, weird back taste to them, and I just can't get down with it. It's so weird.
This is the advertisement part of the chat where we're talking about Liquid Death, Red Bull, fucking
And now
Bangs.
for yeah.
We're just trying to get sponsorships at this point.
Gosh, I was thinking the other day, I was like, "Okay, if we're, like, down on the town with the podcast, we're doing good, we're going, who would I want to sponsor me?" And I think it would honestly be, like, the bubbly water. Like, bubbly water or, the Ghost energy drinks. I've been
Yep.
drinking before I go to the gym, it's like the Warheads. Um what I literally ghosts. I was like, I suddenly have forgotten the name of it, and I just said it. But those are pretty tasty, and they're like 0 calorie or 10 calories, sugar free, whatever. But they give me the energy I need. So
I'll try one
sounds
out. They're at my
yeah.
store and I'll get one. Speaking of beverages, this is a great segue, especially alcohol. How about fucking Bud Light and that fucking controversy? People freaking the fuck out.
It's so weird. I'm like, "You're a grown man. You're a grown adult." I don't understand. People get so worked up about things that do not pertain to them in any capacity, and it's just like, let people live their fucking life. I don't know. I think, it just came out of nowhere. I literally did not know what was happening, and then someone
Same.
mentioned it at work, and I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, another thing for these people to complain about." But it really got people going. I saw this video on TikTok of this guy, like, throwing the wrong beer out. Like, he was pulling cases out of the grocery store, like, alcohol aisle, and it was the wrong beer, and I was like, "Oh, y'all are deep in this," because like, normal people don't do that shit. It's just, like, disagree and move on with your fucking day, I guess.
Just demented people, and like it just like yeah, I saw one video where like one girl's like shooting on all the beer cans, and it's like you got to buy that. Like you didn't steal that from the store. Like you're still supporting that, and like the advert, it's like good, like like what is it? Bad publicity is good publicity. So it's like you're shooting these cans. It's gonna make people want to drink it more. So it's like it's fucking
Yeah,
just people are
it's
just
so weird.
people are just angry at the world, and it's like unfortunate. It's like how does that like I always want to be like how does that bother you as a human? Like how does that affect you? Like what is going
Yeah.
on in your life that you're like this is fucking affecting my life and I can't live?
Yeah, and it's weird to me, like, in a violent way where these people are shooting beer cans because there is a trans woman as the face of whatever advertising they were doing, and it's like, in my brain, I'm like, "Oh, you're violent enough to, like, do something like this because you're so worked up over marketing for beer." Like, I can only imagine how you feel about the actual person, like, and there's so much crime and, like, violence against these people that are just trying to live their lives and, like, go through their lives without they've already gone through so much through their transition or living a double life if they haven't been able to come out, and it's like, I could not for the life of me understand the debacle that people go through. I don't know if it's, like, hatred towards themselves or if they're projecting or if they're truly just uncomfortable and disagree and do not understand. But I feel like if we had empathy for other people, it, it would be a better place. I don't know. It
It,
makes me so heated. I'll sit and think about it and I'm like, bro, you hate people that much? Like, that's embarrassing for you.
that's what I always say. I break it down to this like the science of it all. It's like we're human beings. It's like who gives a fuck what someone else is doing in their own like world? Like we're all our own superhero in our own movie. It's like why do you care about that movie? Like care about your
Yeah.
own movie. Stay in your lane.
Yeah. It's like they're not even a villain. They're not even another main character. They're literally just a background character living their life and you're deciding to be mad about them. Like, you're not that important. Please get over yourself. Ugh,
It's like
don't
people that like
listen.
one thing will happen to them and they'll like hate a whole race. It's like someone that's trans will cut them off in traffic and then they hate all fucking trans people for no reason. It's
Mhm.
like, oh, just one person did something wrong, so you hate all of them. It's like that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, yeah, I would love to, like, get in the brain of someone who think like, obviously, my father is a white supremacist, and I have never I haven't talked to him in years, but, like, also to sit with someone like that and pick their brain and be like, "What is it?" Like, just what is the reason why? And I feel like, at least from conversations I've had with men specifically at work, it's how they were raised, and I don't use that as an excuse anymore, especially in this day and age when there's so much education at the tip of your fingers. There's you can change. You can absolutely change and, like, educate yourself, be a better person, and people just choose not to and use the excuse of, "Well, that's how I was raised." I'm like, "You're 49 years old. You are not that old. You have so much time and room to grow. There is no excuse." But just to sit down and be like, "Okay, what's the deciding factor that makes you hate this race or whatever, think you're better than everybody else?" And I don't know. I don't know if he could, like, pin him specifically or if anyone could pinpoint a reason other than, "I just do."
Yeah, it's that everyone always has an excuse, and like you said, like growing up, it's like that's not an excuse anymore when you're an adult. It's like you got to learn shit on your own. Like you're taking care of yourself now, so you got to figure out like where the where your pain lies in your body and find out how to fix that.
Yeah, and, like, that's something on a side note that I've been struggling with a little bit is like when you become adult or an adult, you're like your responsibility lies within like, yes, I'm mentally ill, but I cannot let that complete my or like get in the way of my life or like how I treat people or whatever. Like I have to take responsibility for my behavior and for my actions and whatever. And for the longest time, I was like, this is just how I am. This is how I grew up being sad. I will never know anything else. And no, we have so much room to grow, so much life to live. It's just not an excuse. So yeah.
Yeah, we got to live our lives and just be the best person we can be, and try to share that with the world. And just I don't know, like that's what we're
Yeah.
kind of doing with our podcast. I know you're not really doing it right now, but like we're
Listen.
doing. Know what you need to do? I think you need to interview more people on your show, and you do. Like when you have Drew on, I think it's really good. Obviously, like you by yourself is really great, but I think you would shine. Like this conversation, we've already crushed an hour. I think you interviewing certain people, like you would do such a great job at it. I think you're a good conversationalist, and like there's definitely people that will like they'll come. I'll tell you what, like people that want to be interviewed by you, like it's gonna come. Like the fucking amount of emails I get from like even
Yeah.
people that have nothing to do with mental health, it drives me insane. They're like, "Oh, I love your show," and it's like, "This guy's an accountant and he wants to talk about his business model." It's like, where the fuck does that lie in the mental health world? And
Yeah.
it's tough.
I love that you say that. Thank you. And I appreciate that because that is my when I rebranded, I was like, this is I'll do some solo episodes, but I would really like to reach out to people and interview them. And more specifically, like my friends that have like teaching jobs or just like everyday people like us and how they are dealing with their mental health in their own lives. Because I feel like we see so much of celebrities and it's super fun, but, like, you have a variety of interviews, and it's so fun to see, like, different people in their jobs, whether they're, like, famous or not. You just get the array of, like, what mental health is to different people, and so I was like, "Oh, I would love to, like, get my friends on," or I had my mom on for the last, like for podcast 27 and just, like, seeing how their job affects them mentally or their kids or their relationship or whatever. I love doing that. It's my job at work. It's pretty much like an interview every single day. And I had someone say like I am not a hustler. I don't go like bam 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 back to back to people to try to do my job, but I'll sit down because people come in for an experience. They want to feel important or they want someone to listen to them and sometimes that's all it takes. So that's how I am successful at my job is by pretty much interviewing people and skipping the like how was your day? Where are you from? Like how many kids do you have? And being like, are you mentally ill? What is
Yeah.
the real deal here? But I think it'd be really fun. So
Yeah, you definitely should. I should probably interview my mom. That was always the thing that I was gonna maybe interview my mom, and then like obviously I'm separated from Lindsay, and like when we like fully separate and divorce, like I want to have like we've already talked about me interviewing her for an episode. I think that would be
oh
fucking
yeah.
super interesting.
Yeah, that would be I feel like I haven't really ever seen anything like that or heard anything like that, like from the perspective of like all right, we're divorced. How are we feeling? Like, how is everything past this? So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's fun. Like I'm pretty open to a point about my situation. Like obviously, like I still live with Lindsay, and I have a roommate now, and everything's going great. It's funny, like me and Lindsay have always be good friends, and like she's still my best friend. But like the house situation's not going bad because like I work nights, they work days, so it's like we take care of the dogs, Fanny and Charles, and and it's not easy living by yourself, man. The rates to fucking like buy a house and like refinance is just too
Terrible.
high. And like
Yeah,
if she stayed and I go, it's like she's gonna be screwed on the mortgage. So it's like I don't want to
yeah.
do that either. But I'm just very fortunate for my situation. I'm very fortunate for Lindsay and like how she is. And then like I love my roommate Sadie. Like we took her in because she needed a place to stay. So and like yeah, you have a roommate too, or you had one?
We do. His name is Patrick, and I think he would do really well on a podcast, but, like, probably not on mine. He could probably have his own because if you listen I know I talk about the basement yard, so I suggest it to everyone, but his personality he's from New York. So every day is a bit. Like, our every interaction I have with him is, like, an ongoing bit. It's, like, back and forth, theatrics, and, like, that's just how he is as a person. I feel like he would do really well with his own podcast, just, like, comedy or whatever. But it's really great because like we've had a lot of bad roommate situations in the past. And when we bought the house, it was like as quarantine was happening, Drew was still traveling. So I was home the majority of the time by myself. Drew traveled probably like 85% of the time. And then Patrick was ready to move back from New York. And we were like, rates are high. You just move in with us. We have so many rooms here. And it's been great. Honestly, he's the best roommate that we have ever had. So it's nice. It's like having we've known him for so long. So it's like having your best friend and then your husband is your best friend, and you're like, oh cool. We can all like do shit together. It's so fun.
Yeah, no, it is good. I like having the roommate. She helps out, she cleans, she cooks, she's awesome. But like then there's times it's like Lindsay's going away for a week, but she's staying, and I'm like, fuck, I don't have the house to myself. Like it's
Yeah.
just like those little things, and so like your privacy kind of goes out a little bit, but
Mhm.
overall it's been pretty good. And again, man, just living by yourself out there is like not easy. Like everyone has a roommate, everyone has to like just fend for themselves somehow, and it's
Yeah.
scary, man. Living life is scary.
Yeah, I'm like, I would not be living La Vida Loca if I was single. I would be living sad, whatever the alternative is for that.
Yeah. Yeah, what is
But
the alternative of living La Vida Loca? Like,
I have no idea. It'll come to me like 7 hours from now, and I'll be like,
yeah,
"This would have been perfect to say back then." But yeah,
exactly.
how I didn't realize that it's been an hour already, so I was like, "Oh, I don't know if there's more topics to come." I feel like I will ramble, and then I'm like, 2 hours has gone by, and now I've wasted someone's time just sitting here.
No, not at all. I wrote down no notes. I'm just sitting here. I got nothing behind me.
Same.
Like, I didn't use my mic because my mic has been fucking acting up and I got to buy a new one. So hopefully this sounds good for everybody. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good episode for everyone to listen to because like we haven't caught up in a while. Like you were one of my first interviewees on the show. I think you
Yeah.
might have been the first one actually.
I think I was. I think I was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were the first well, I was new, so you were the first one on mine too. But yeah, I was like, "Oh, this will be fun, like get me back into the swing of things," and I'd been meaning to do it for so long. And then um I think it was Levi, is that his name from What Are We Doing Pod?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of like I got off the face of the earth in the pod world, so I've like forgotten everyone's name. So I was like, there's so many people I wanted to do like collaborations with, and now that I'm like getting back, I have my calendar out. I'm like, this topic for this day, we will record this day, whatever. I'm not to the point where I can like start getting everyone on like a like the system that you have, a Calendly or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's so many great people out there. I feel like now that I've narrowed down the circle a little bit, I can have a better transition into the newer podcast. But I've gotten like some pretty good numbers on the 3 episodes that I do have, but
Yeah,
there's more
hell
to
yeah.
come for
Yeah,
sure.
you're a good podcaster. Yeah, it's like I don't know anyone's like name, and if I do, it's like I forget it, but like their podcast name is them. It's like you know what I mean? Like at least I have my name in mind. It's pretty easy to remember. But yeah, some other people I'm like, fuck, I don't know their friend. Like if I met them, I'd be like, hey, how are you? Fucking we have issues.
Yes, or I always see everyone by their social media handle, and, like, on TikTok, I'm Jude Law& and Order, and so if I go into, like, a box or something, no one understands the reference. I thought it was so funny, so I kept it, but someone will be like, "Oh, hello, Jude Law& and Order," and I'm like, "That's me." So whenever I see someone else's name, I'm like their face could be, like, some random meme name, and I'm like, "That's your name now."
Yeah,
So,
that's my persona too. It's like 20, 10 minutes. I do interviews and every interview person comes on, they're like, "Oh, is this gonna be 20 minutes?" I'm like, "No, that's just like a running gag now. Like that's just my name." Like that's
yeah.
like Tuesday episodes like 20 minutes and like that was my first thing coming into the podcast before I even thought about doing a mental health podcast was like I want to do it 20 minutes because like when I did one with my buddy Billy, we did like hours and I was like for me, like I didn't listen. I still don't listen to my podcast, but like I
Yeah.
personally can't sit through like an hour long podcast. Like, and like I'm very open about that. Like, I listen to probably like one or two podcasts, and like one of them's yours.
Yeah.
And it's just tough because I'm such a music head. But yeah, when I started podcasting, I was like, I want it to be 20 minutes, and I want to like have a name. And like my buddy Duff came up with the name because I was gonna do Timmy 20 minutes. So it
Yeah.
kind of sounds like took me 20 minutes, Timmy 20 minutes. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
that was too much of a mouthful, and they were like, "Oh, what about 20 10 minutes?" And I spelt it out, and he's like, "No, you got to do the 2-0." And I was like, "Oh shit!" So like that whole thing wasn't even my idea.
That's awesome. It's a really great name though. It, like, flows very well.
It
So,
It does for people that know how to pronounce it. I love when people say 20 TI minutes. I'm like, what the
Yeah,
fuck? I'm like, that's
like,
so funny.
no. Yeah, I remember, like, when I made podcast 27, I ended up stumbling across this, like, big podcast account on Twitter that was like, if you have to put pod or podcast in your podcast name, like, you shouldn't be podcasting, and I was like, "Well, okay then, fuck me, I guess." Like, I'm still people are listening to it, so I guess it's fine, but I was like, "Alright, well, I guess when we rebrand, we'll come up with something a little bit different." So,
Yeah, and your logo's a lot more sharp. I'm not making fun of the old logo, but then you just like pick it randomly.
yeah, literally, I took it from Anchor. I was like, I wasn't prepared to, like, know anything. Like, what am I supposed to do? So I got on Anchor and I was like, "Cool, that lady looks like kinda like me." I was blonde at the time. I was like, "I like the aesthetic. We're just gonna keep it." And I didn't think to, like, make stickers or, like, anything like that. And then once I got into the groove, I was like, "Okay, at some point, I will have a logo." And I reached out to a couple of people, but they've been busy, and I was like, "You know what? Let me just conjure up something myself." And I love the traditional tattoo kinda style. I've got the Grim Reaper tattoo on my arm, so I was like, "Cool. That's what we're gonna go with."
Yeah,
So,
I went on Fiverr to have mine made because it was like
yeah,
I'm not like I do my Canva like when I make my like art for like the podcast intro or whatever like the stills or the
yeah.
thumbnail I'm looking for is like I make it so basic it's like background color cut out photos of each other and then like my logo in the middle like I do such like and make it simple because like but so many people are talented out there and it's out of control.
Yeah, when I was in high school and, like, right out of high school, when MySpace was a thing, I loved photo editing, like, audio editing, video editing, all that kind of stuff, and I would spend hours, like, on my layouts or creating, like, templates or whatever, and I'm like, now that I have a laptop and I don't have a mouse and, like, it's just a different setup, I'm very weird about I need a mouse at all times. So, I got on I think it was Canva, and then there was another website that I used to make my logo, and I paid, like, I don't know, $20 to be able to use it or whatever. I was like, "Oh, I could probably just, like" if I was artistic enough to draw, I probably could have drawn something, but it worked out. So if I ever do, like, videos or something, I'd like to get more in depth with the all the editing features.
You know who does really good at that? We brought him up was Levi. Like he's like his whole thing with like the because when I was on his podcast, he had like a great thumbnail for like my episode and everything, and like he's got like the mic and he's got like that voice, and
Yeah,
he's very entertaining as a human being. Like I like him a lot.
yeah, yeah, he seems like a great guy. He's very entertaining. That is the perfect word for him, especially on YouTube.
He deals with
So
negativity very well. I don't.
I don't yes, because I don't understand. Oh my god, TikTok, like, that's why for a long time I was like, I could do YouTube, and then I had this TikTok go viral or whatever, and now that I've, like, got a little bit more traction on a lot of my TikToks, when kids are mean, it's mostly children, but I'm like, "I please don't be mean to me, I'm very sensitive, and I will not be mean to a child on the internet,"
Oh,
but
I will.
you're like, "Fuck them kids."
Yeah, fuck them
But
kids.
I'm like, "Oh my god, please do not bully me like this." So, the way that he deals with, like, the haters, I'm like, "You are a better man than I will ever be," because am either crying or I'm like, "Alright, you wanna hit me where it hurts? I'm gonna hit you where it hurts." And I don't wanna be that person, so
Yeah, I'm wicked petty. I'm Tom Petty. I always have to clap back at somebody when they say something to me, and like, because I can match wits with like the best of them, and I have thick skin to a point, but like shit irks me. Like I wouldn't like I'm not gonna like lose sleep over it, but I'm irked enough to be like, all right, let me fucking get you back.
Yeah, I definitely I've always been very sarcastic and I can be snarky and there's this one guy at work that his whole personality is just being fucking rude and he thinks it's funny. And so I upon meeting him for the first time, I was like, okay, I can realize the bit that he's doing. This is how he is. And so I gave it back to him and he was like, what the fuck? Why are you being such a bitch? And I was like, all right. So this is one, we're not gonna do that. And two, if you cannot dish it, or if you can dish it and you cannot take it, don't fucking be like that. So I feel like I've become softer over time, but I do like to be a little sarcastic, especially if someone doesn't know me and they are comfortable enough to be that way around me. I'm like, cool. Then I'm also gonna be that way around you.
Yeah, that's I hate those people that they can dish it, but they can't take it back. You're like what is this? One way
Yeah.
street? It's like, come on.
Yeah. I'm like, I thought we were having a fun time here and you just called me a bitch because I just said the same thing that you did. Like that does not make any sense, but okay.
Oh,
So,
people are the worst.
quite literally, and I think too, since I stopped drinking, like, I've just noticed how people like, as sober and when I talk about, like, not drinking, I was drinking very heavily, so it wasn't a like, I cannot moderately drink, and I don't know if, like, one day that will change where I can have a drink here or there, but it's not like I decided, like, "Oh, I'm gonna get sober because I didn't like drinking." I had, like, a definite problem to where now I step back as a sober person watching other people that are drunk, and I'm like, "Oh my god, these people are literally insufferable. How was I dealing with this before?"
Anybody
Crazy.
that doesn't drink or like went sober, like live like the best life. They're like, I lost weight, I'm feeling great, like I wake up ready to go. And it's like, again, it's just drinking poison.
Yes, it's awesome because like, the doctors were right, which is, like, so fine, I guess it's their job or whatever, but they were like, "Your mental health's gonna get better, and, like, your physical health will get better." I lost 30 pounds from just, like, the drink I drink a lot of beer, and then my anxiety has almost been non-existent since I quit drinking, and it's crazy because my anxiety was so bad, and even before I was drinking like that, my anxiety had, like, settled in its place in my body where it was like, "We're here to stay." And now it's a lot different. It comes in waves. My depression and, like, the bipolar episodes are still the same. They're still doing the same thing, but anxiety has, like, completely cut more than half of itself out of my life, so that's pretty cool. But
Looking back, I like on my bipolar journey, it's like I'm so much better than where I was. And it's like if I keep up with my meds, even though like sometimes I feel like my meds aren't working, but then I think back, I'm just like, yeah, this is going good. But yeah, I just had my physical and like I had to take photos of all my medication because I don't know pronounce them. So I like showed them like what because they ask you all that shit. And then
yeah.
I sleep terribly. I slept terrible last night too, and I think I might have sleep apnea, and I've gained 30 pounds over like the past like 2, 3 years. And like I'm at a weight that I've never been at. And I'm like the heaviest I've been. And I was like, yeah, I think I have sleep apnea. I was like, and he's like, you ever think about losing weight? And I was like, do you ever think about getting punched in the mouth? Like,
Did
you
you
know
ever
what I
think
mean?
about getting wrecked? But
Yeah, dude. So
yeah.
like I can do a sleep study if I want, but like my goal now is just to lose weight. And like I know it's not better, but like I cut down on beers and like I just do like I know like Tito's and like soda water is like a lot better for you because it's
Oh,
like
yeah,
one, it's like gluten free. And so like I've been drinking that, but you get more wasted. So you got to be careful. It's like very dicey.
yeah.
So people out
Slippery
there
slope.
don't drink responsibly.
Yeah, if I ever hit a day where I feel like I'm comfortable to try to drink responsibly again, I think I would just stick to, like, maybe a glass of wine or, like, vodka soda or something like that. Because like, beer, I didn't realize I started tracking for a couple weeks how much I was intaking as far as calories go with IPAs because that's what I loved, and then I would binge eat, and I was there was one week, I think my highest was, like, a little over 6,000 calories in a day, and that was consistently, like, in between 3 to 5,000 calories for, like, weeks on end, and I had to go to my doctor because she was like, "Okay, how much are you, like, actually drinking?" And I was like, "This much," and she was like, "Oh my god, you can't even quit cold turkey, like, you need to, like, wean off and, like, really get yourself in check." And I was like, "Cool." I truly did not I was like, "Where's all this weight coming from?" And then seeing the numbers, you're like, "Oh, shit, yeah, that's where it's coming from."
I
So,
love I love these booze companies that are like they're like, oh, it's great, delicious. It's like please drink responsibly just in case. But like alcohol is like the one thing you can die from like withdrawal from. It's like it's insane how like
yeah,
crazy booze is. But oh man,
yeah. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, maybe we'll see." Like, the whole, like, legalization of weed. I was like, "Maybe one day in this lifetime," and it's happening here and there, but the marketing for alcohol is just insane. Once I was able to, like, put my brain not in the place of, like, I want everyone to stop drinking because like, I still wish I could drink, I just, like, cannot do it. So, I'll see, like, the marketing, and I'm like, "Oh." Probably, like, under the brain somewhere, I was like, "Well, it's okay if it's, like, legal and, like, other people are doing it and, like, the marketing is so good and, like, I should be doing brunch and drinking wine every night after work to calm down, whatever." So, they really get you with the advertising.
I just realized there's no advertising for like marijuana, and like I just read somewhere that they're like they just beat out chocolate sales, which I don't know how they judge that. But like
Oh.
marijuana's been bought more than chocolate. But like yeah, why isn't there any like marijuana like
Mm.
commercials or anything?
Yeah, at least in, like, the legal states too,
Yeah.
like, just in California. And then, like, when we went to Las Vegas, like, you see all the dispensaries and stuff, but, like, I've never seen a commercial for it. I wonder why. Unless, like, I'm not watching cable TV when I'm at these places, but you would think, like, you would see ads or something when you're in that area, like, on your phone or something,
It's
but
gonna be a tough ad because I didn't notice this in alcohol commercials. You never notice this, but they never take a sip of alcohol in the commercial.
oh, no, I've never noticed that.
Yeah, they that's like
Interesting.
a I remember like there was a Heineken commercial about like Barney Stinson from like How I Met Your Mother or like what's his name? Fucking Doogie Howser. What's that guy's name?
Oh my gosh, I know who you're talking. Neil Patrick Harris?
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
he like kind of alluded to that. He walked off the set and like took a sip and came back. It was like, oh, delicious. But like, yeah, I don't think you can drink the alcohol in the commercial.
Oh, oh, that's interesting. Maybe because if they had to do too many takes and you're, like, getting a little crazy, you know?
Have you ever watched I Love Lucy?
Yes,
Have you
yeah.
seen the Vita Mita Benjamin episode where she gets like wasted off the drink?
No, I don't think if I have, I don't remember it. I remember the chocolate episode.
Yes, you would remember the Vita Mita Benjamin one. I'll tell you which up. It's on Hulu, and it's like I think it's rated like the number two funniest episode of like all time in TV history, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
fucking laugh out loud funny. Like even now, like I piss myself every time I watch it.
I'll have to watch it because I have Hulu. Speaking of TV history, literally Jerry Springer, right before we started recording, I saw your post and I was like, "What do you mean RIP?" And then I get on Twitter because Twitter is like a second by second news source, and I was
Yeah,
like, "No fucking way." And, like, I'm a big Dancing with the Stars fan, and, what is his name? Len Goodman just passed away, one of the judges on there. I was like, "Oh my god, it's so sad." Because when you're younger, old people pass or, like, actors or whatever, but until, like, it's someone that you've grown up with or you're, like, connected with in a certain way, you're like, "Damn, I forget that we die, like, inevitably."
dude,
That's sad.
Bob Barker's still alive.
Crazy. I thought Betty White was gonna, like, really hang on to, like, 100, but these people lived a good fucking life, so it's just so I was very mind blown by the Jerry Springer one, but I also didn't realize he was what was he, 79 or something like that?
Yeah, that's like the age. I think when like people make it to like 80, 90, it's like, wow, like you definitely like lived a long life. You like life is like they say life is short and it is, it's pretty fast, but life is so fucking long when you look at it on paper.
Yeah, someone the other day was like, "We could be having our midlife crisis right now, and we wouldn't even know it." And I'm like, "Please don't say that to me because I will spiral." Anything regarding death, I already have a lot of issues with, like, basing that's how I found out that I have OCD is because, it's called magical thinking OCD, where, like, you do things in your everyday life that do not impact, like, a bad outcome, but your brain thinks that it does. So, like, I have to, like, pet my dogs on the head, like, 3 times, give them a kiss before I go out the door, and then come back in and make sure all my outlets are gone, or else I will die when I leave the house. So, he was like I was like, "Please don't say that to me because my entire life revolves around death, and I literally cannot think I could be in my midlife crisis right now. I will pass away on the spot." So
That's why I don't know how people do true crime podcasts or even listen to them. They just like listen
Oh,
to death all day and like these like awful murders. It's like I don't know how people do that. I just can't do it. Like I went and saw Evil Dead Rise, and I haven't watched a horror movie with like death in it in like a long time. And in my head, I'm
yeah.
like, this is like fucked up. Like, why am I watching this?
Yeah, I it looked like a good movie, I wanna see it. I had to take a break from true crime because you know me, I love, like, My Favorite Murder, and then That's Why We Drink and Morbid and whatever. But after a while, at least for me, I was like, "Oh my gosh," like, I already had enough of a problem with the idea of death and stuff, but these, like I think it took reading this book. It was like a rom-com type of book, and the woman it's a, like, fairly recent book that came out, I guess. She's obsessed with true crime, and everything that she does is revolved around, "Are my neighbors watching me? Is the guy I'm seeing a serial killer?" And I was like, "Oh god, that's embarrassing, and that's also me." Like, I need to step back a little bit and not be so paranoid, but it's also just very sad, like, all the time, so, you gotta take a break from that sort of thing.
Yeah, like people watching Dahmer and like the families like that got affected by it. Like, what the fuck?
Yes.
Like,
And there's always and it's always like the 5 serial killers. It's like Ted Bundy, Dahmer, Richard Ramirez, John Wayne Gacy. There's another one. There's like so many of the main ones that they just keep making shows and movies about, and I'm like, "We've had enough. We've seen enough. We know what they did. We don't need to keep seeing it on TV. I didn't watch the Dahmer series, the one with Evan Peters. That man has been through so many roles where I'm like, I hope he has a good therapist because he's a great actor, but that's all that he plays.
Yeah, just
Crazy.
crazy. He was in the X-Men movies though. He played Quicksilver, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't see those movies.
Forget. I'm like the worst. I'm like the worst when it comes to names. I like my like memory in general just sucks. Like I just like my wordplay and my word recall is just not good at times, and I think it contributes to my mental illness.
Yeah, I didn't realize like the whole memory loss kind of thing. Like I'm starting to recover memories from like years and years ago and so many things that I'd forgotten or like I feel like my brain has gotten like worse over time remembering basic English words or I don't know, just like random shit that I should know that I cannot put my finger on. I'm like, is this mental health related or is it the cause of drinking so much or is it just like I'm getting older? I don't know, but I would like to have my memory back.
Yeah, memories key. I'll think of something like a long time ago, and I like shock myself that I remembered it, and I'm like texting people like, "Dude, you remember this?" And it's like, "Yeah, dude, like that happened like 2 weeks ago." I'm like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
shit."
Like, oh, yeah, it was a great time. Such a
Yeah.
fun time. That's funny.
So what do you got coming up? Anything good?
As far as like life in general
Yeah,
or
podcast, general.
yeah, I do. I have a podcast that I've written up about grief, like the topic of grief, which I think will be good because I want to bring a guest on. I don't want to like say too much about it because I'm like, it could happen next week. It could happen in 2 months. Who knows?
Yeah,
But I'm trying to like piece together something, like dealing with not only the loss of a grandparent, but a miscarriage, and then just, like, I feel like I'm in a spot now where, like, I'm healing a lot of, like, teenage me. I feel like I'm getting to be a fun, happy person again despite my mental health, and so you're, like, grieving this whole past of you that you thought you knew or a parent that you thought you knew, and so that's a really heavy topic for me that I wanna talk about, that I'm excited to talk about, and then other than that, it's concert season, baby. I've got so many concerts coming up that I'm looking forward to. I'm seeing Nickelback, super excited about that.
I'm gonna say this about Nickelback: they get too much hate for what it is. There's
They
like I can name like
do.
20 other bands that suck.
Yeah. Oh my god. I my sister texted me and was like, "What if we saw Nickelback?" And I was like, "What if we did?" And she bought tickets, and then she bought tickets for like Matchbox 20. I'm seeing like Pierce the Veil, Bring Me the Horizon, Fall Out Boy. There's just like a whole lineup that I'm super excited for because in my brain I'm like, let me do so many things before I possibly get pregnant again. And like if I get pregnant again and it's like actual pregnancy, like I don't want to show up at a concert and be like, in the pit or whatever.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Alright, let's do all this stuff." I would like to try to do, like, a vacation or something, but other than that, I really don't have anything exciting to report. I'm just trying to keep my head above the water, and that's
Yeah.
exciting enough for me.
Same.
What about you?
I got I might go to Minnesota with my buddy Duff to go see the Red Sox play the Twins, but we're kind of like looking at prices and stuff. I'm going to P Town in like June to go camping with my family. I don't know if you know P Town. You know P Town, Provincetown in Mass.
No, I
It's a
don't know.
very, it's very, it's known for its like very gay community. Like there's like a strip, and it's just like it's
Oh,
gay.
hell
Like
yeah.
it's very gay, and it's fucking
Oh,
awesome.
kinda like Key West. I feel like Key West, like, we had our honeymoon there, and I didn't realize, like, how big the gay community is there. I guess I just, like, had blinders on or whatever, but whenever I tell people about it, they're like, "Gay," and I'm like, "Hell yeah, I had no idea." That's really cool though. Is it
Yeah.
like are you going during, like, Pride season, or is it just like that, like, all the
Oh,
time?
it's pretty much Pride every week. It's like the
Hell
mecca
yeah.
of like gay community. Like look up P Town, and that's what it's known for, and it's a
Yeah.
fucking blast every time I
That's so
go.
fun. I
Yeah,
love that.
we're going for my little brother's birthday, and yeah, we're gonna have a fucking blast. And but anything else? No, just still trucking along with the podcast. Got some guests on. Still reaching out to like big names to see what I can get. Like you can't
Yeah.
you gotta shoot your shot no matter what, no matter how big it is, because like you know what I mean. You never know like what's
Yeah.
gonna happen. Like I reached out to Laverne Cox, and their people got back to me, and
No way.
I didn't like the fact that they got back to me to say no was like very cool. But they were like, oh no, she's in
Yeah.
production, like blah blah blah. I was like, I would have fucking loved to have her on.
Yeah, that's so cool that they even, like, responded back to tell you no, though, because I feel like people don't give anyone the time of day to even, like, reject them, so that's really awesome, though, I love that. I
Yeah.
love, like who was it? Dane Cook or whatever? There
Yeah.
I think it was Dane Cook and someone else, I was like, "How did he do that?" That's
Allison
awesome.
Stoner.
Yes, oh my gosh, that's who it was, Allison Stoner, and now they're doing, like, the whole, like, Child Star kind of revival. Christy Carlson Romano is on TikTok, and I think she started a podcast where they're starting to talk about, like, Disney and Nickelodeon and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, I need to know, like, why all these people had the experiences that they did." So, it's awesome that you have names like that, and then all of your interviews are really great, though. I feel like everyone has a really good time. It's very, like, smooth, runs really smooth, like, everyone always, like, has something to talk about. There's never an awkward, like, "All right, well, what are we gonna say now?" kinda thing.
I'll tell you a little inside tip. I don't fucking take notes until like the day before when I'm like getting ready to do it. Like I'm such like the kid in high school that waited to the last minute to do their project. So like it is definitely like almost like off the cuff for me. And like I got my basic questions that I start off with, like what does mental health mean to you? What's your relationship? But then like I'll go into that and then they'll say something like we're having a conversation where it'll like spread off. And like
Mhm.
back in my day, I would probably like not come back to the main point. So like I'm very proud of myself that I can bring it and connect it back to like the main conversation. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I do enjoy the interviews. I don't enjoy them until I hit record. Like I'm like,
yeah,
oh, I'm like I gotta do an interview. It's like this is gonna suck. I'm not gonna do good. And then like my meds kick in, and then I hit play, and I'm like, all right, we're having a good time. Like I haven't had like there's like one or two that I was just like, but I'm like, and like I won't say who it was, but like there's like for the majority, I'd say 98% of my interviews are fucking awesome.
yeah, that's awesome. It keeps the energy going, keeps the traction for the pod going, and I feel like you're doing something that a lot of like, I feel like the discourse around men's mental health is always so negative, at least from, like, the side that I see, whether it's, like, Facebook or, like, I don't know, I just see a lot of people complain about how no one takes men seriously in the aspect of mental health, and I'm like, "No, no, I have a friend, his name is Tim, and you should check out his podcast." Because there are people
Yeah.
out there that care about you, and when you have friends and people that care about you and your mental health, like, you start to see it truly is sometimes, like, the environment that you are surrounding yourself in, the friends that you have, it can make or break, like, the person that you are. So what you're doing is great. I feel like you were the first podcast that I came across when it came to mental health when I started,
Mhm.
and that, like, the whole community is awesome. So you're
It,
doing
re-
great stuff.
it really is. I remember the days where we would like look up hashtag podcast recommendations and like get into fights with people that are like, stop fucking tweeting me.
Yes, I remember I was like, "Why are you gonna ask for podcast recommendations if you hate all the recommendations that are being given to you? Like, what did
Yeah,
you
yeah,
learn
yeah.
from this?"
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
so many things I learned from the podcast community, just like taking little bits of like tips from people. Like I've never had a public speaking course or whatever, but like I learned like interviewing tips from like other podcasters or like what I do too is I'll research who I'm interviewing and see if they're on an interview and like
mhm,
take those questions, not ask them, but already know them. So like, oh, I heard this about you. Instead of
yeah,
being like, oh, tell me about this. So it's like the same fucking question. So like I kind of
yeah,
steal from other people's episodes, which
yeah.
is good.
Well, that's good too, because then, like, you're not asking the same questions or because I'm sure a lot of these people are hearing the same thing every single time they have an interview with someone, so when you can make it fun and make it a thing of, like, I feel like I know you or I know enough about you, so let's get down to, like, other business that other people haven't necessarily heard probably, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have like a extensive like background check to be on my podcast. Not because I got a big podcast, but there's like so many people. Like people ask to be on the show, and like people reach out, and like so I have someone fill out an application, and like I can learn about them without having to do a consult. And if it's good enough, I'll do a consult with them before the interview, so we can see if we mesh. So like I know it's
Yeah.
like a bunch of steps for people, but my favorite is when they include the questions to ask them, and I'm like, I'm not asking what are these questions. Like I'm
Yeah,
doing my
because you
own thing.
yeah, you're like, "Oh, I want you to ask me questions that I want to answer," pretty much, and I, like there was a spreadsheet at one point, and I have an email for Podcast 27. I don't even know how to log into it, I've never checked it, but somehow a few podcasts have found, like, my personal email or have messaged me, and they're like, "I would like to be on on your show," and it's like a money management podcast or something. They know nothing about me, and it's like the generic post, or if they do know enough about me and it's not a generic message that they send out to everyone, it's just, like, not a match, or it's someone that is just trying to get, like, free content or something, or they're trying to, like, weasel in the DMs or something, and I'm like, No, I have a specific, like, unless you're not genuinely wanting to talk about mental health or whatever, and if you're someone that, like, doesn't listen to the podcast or, like, have a good knowledge of, like, what mental illness is, like, someone messaged me and they were like, "Oh, I'd love to come on your show and, like, just talk about whatever." But their podcast was, or their Twitter at least, was, like, shitting on a lot of mental illness stuff, and I was like, I'm not gonna you don't understand, and I'm not the one that's gonna try to make you understand on my show where you already are insensitive a lot of the time. I just, like, don't have time or energy for that.
I think
So,
it's very awkward to ask to be on someone's podcast. I like when people ask me, I don't know how to like say no or like
yeah.
say like I don't think it's a good fit because like that's how I am with like people that email me too that I don't know. But I just feel
Yeah,
like I just feel like it's I don't know. I hate saying this publicly because like people that might listen to this would be like, fuck, I asked him to be on his show. And I'm not mad about it. It's just like
yeah,
I just don't think it's a good fit, or it's like not a good fit now. And then like a lot of the times, I'm just backed the fuck up on so many
yeah,
interviews that I have to edit them all. But yeah, that's I
yeah.
feel like that's a tough thing to put some like put them on the spot and be like, oh, I should be on your show, and it's like
Uh,
why?
I don't think so. Why do you think that? It's kind of like when, or at least for me, when, like, men come into the DMs and they're like, "I think we should be friends," and I'm like, I don't need any friends, even though I just tweeted about how hard it is to make friends as an adult. But I'm like, I'm looking for like a specific type of friend, not someone that is just wanting, they're just interested and just trying to slide in the DMs. But like, it's the rejection is really weird because there's a lot of like great girls that I'd probably be really good friends with, or maybe not. And it's like, how do you tell someone, like, oh, I don't think we're the right fit? It's like
Yeah.
very awkward. Yeah.
There's one thing that drives me nuts, and I've only seen women do it. It says in their bio, it says no DMs, but they have their fucking DMs open. You can just turn those off.
I think so. It's so funny because obviously it's like, okay, if you're an adult, you can read no DMs, do not DM this person.
Yeah.
However, when you are on Twitter, I'm not, if your tweets come up on my timeline, now that we have a For You page, or if I see a liked tweet from someone, I'm not clicking on your bio. I don't care that much. And so like I know that if I were to put no DMs in my bio and keep my DMs open, like people able to message me, that's what I'm gonna deal with. I'm not gonna complain about it. You don't have to respond to people. You literally do not have to respond to people that you do not want to talk to. And it doesn't make you a rude person. It makes you a rude person to like, there are people that genuinely slide in the DMs and they're being respectful and you can let them down easy. But to go and post like screenshots of people like actually being genuinely nice, it's like, "Oh, you're an asshole for doing that."
Yeah.
But then
100%.
there are some creepy people that are, like, actually creepy and they do deserve to be put on blast, but I'm like, you don't have to screenshot every man in your DMs or every person in your DMs, like, I probably have, like, 100 that I've ignored. I'm like, not that I'm this, like, crazy, like, hot chick or whatever, but it's just, like, how social
You are.
media is, like, you try to stop it. But I'm like, you don't have to entertain people. It's really simple as that. And like, I hate letting people down. I don't like being rude to people. So anytime someone's like, "Oh, you're so pretty. We should be friends. Can I get your number?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't really know what to say, but thank you."
Yeah. I don't know what to do with my hands. Haley, this has been a lot of fun. It's unfortunate that I have
Yes.
to cut it early because I have to go to work, but
No,
this
no,
has been awesome.
it's been awesome. Thank you so much. I didn't even realize it is 12:37. So thank you for getting me back on the grind. I
Yeah.
will have new episodes out soon.
I think I'll make this the Sunday struggle sesh and put this out on Sundays.
Hell yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah, right. Haley, I love you so much. Thank you for
I
chatting with
love
me today. You're
you.
such a great person. I need you back on the podcasting game. I wish you nothing but the best. You deserve some good luck coming up. I
Thank
can
you,
feel it.
so do you. I can feel the vibes. We're gonna do great. We're gonna do great. Thank you so much.
Later.
Alright, bye.
You can kiss my ass.
This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. If you are feeling suicidal, please dial 911.